All right, so I can already see that on the opposite stream. So I had is getting that stream going, so I'm just going to jump on here and let a few people know that I am on the other. Oh, here we go. All right. Jamie Harms, hello, hello. Didn't expect to see you on here. Janelle, audio is okay. All right. What's up, Mark Roberts and Cynthia Mitchell? Hello from Oklahoma. Ooh, what part of you? What part of Oklahoma are you from, Cynthia? I got friends there. B-Man, I'm in. Yes, I haven't done this before, so it was kind of a pain in the arse. Hello, Carol, Bill King. Ozark Lightning. Howdy, howdy. Southwest Missouri. Me too. I'm actually out of Springfield, Janelle. Yeah, so this is my first time going live, man. I thought I would just jump on here and discuss a few things, talk about a few things that happened in the documentary that we put out, and explain a few things involving that situation and what's happening going forward in the 400 and all that good stuff. Myself and Randy Harrington and Chris Reinhardt, the three of us. Mark Gardner was involved in the first documentary also, and we had a lot of crazy, wild stuff go on, and there's a lot of stuff that did not make that documentary just because of time. We had 5 days of footage, and we didn't want to get too crazy in the first one. We just kind of wanted to introduce people to the situation, and I didn't get to do a lot of things that I wanted to do. I ended up hiring out some of the editing, and I really wanted to get more in it, but it would have been a 2 or 3 hour video. What's up, B-Man? So yeah, it became an ordeal where I kind of let Stacy Brown take over the editing and do his thing. That's what he does, and he did a great job. We're going to be starting the second one in the next few days. It's filmed. The third one is filmed, and things get better. We get more evidence. There's some things that we show that I don't think other people have been able to show. So, like, for instance, I got some evidence that shows that these Sasquatch that are on this property are storing food, and we can get into that. We can get into a lot of stuff. Hey, there's Randy Harrington right there. We've also now brought a biologist by the name of Dan Nedrilo into the mix. We took Dan out last year for the first time, and he had been on the property for about an hour, and we had him within about 100 feet of a juvenile that we had pinned down in high grass. Me and Randy have been discussing for quite some time about, what would the odds be, and of something bad happening if I approached one of these things. And we decided to put it to the test, and we didn't know when we were going to do it. It was just kind of an in the moment thing. And long story short, and Mr. Dan Nedrilo were there, and they also videoed this on the thermal. Randy was running the thermal and guiding me out to the spot where this juvie was pinned down. And yeah, I don't think they look at me as a threat either, Mark. For those of you that don't know about the situation in the 400, I guess I should drop back to that. I've been out there. This is my 4th year out there, and I've spent a lot of time in the past year and a half to 2 years by myself out there, kind of prepping this whole situation and doing what I do to, make myself very predictable. And the crazy thing about the 400 is that typically when you bring people from the outside world into these areas, when you've been doing this alone or with one other person, typically things shut down. And so that's not what happened. What you see in the documentary is actually the very first time that I brought Randy and Chris Reinhardt into the 400. And there was tons of stuff that happened. Everything heightened. Things got a little wilder, a little crazier. And it seems like every time I bring the guys in, that's when things do get a little wilder and a little crazier. And I think at this point, I don't think they're necessarily just used to me. I think that they're used to seeing Randy and Chris out there. And when we go set up camp, I think they understand now that, the rest of the guys are going to be there and that there's going to be a lot to watch and a lot to keep an eye on. Yes, Jamie, I have released the documentary. It is on Amazon Prime, Into the 400. It's going well. We're getting quite a few views. Not what I'd hoped, but that doesn't really matter. And the whole deal with the documentary is that we're just able to show what we're doing. And the second one's going to get into more of the story and the background story. And it's just crazy that I was able to bring people into that situation, and we got more evidence than I ever had in 5 days. So as it moves forward, last year I actually got to see one of them twice within the same day. That was during July, the July trip. October is when I approached the juvenile, and we got a lot more FLIR footage also in October. We oh no, it's a booger. What? Really? Anyway, it's just amazing how things happen out there when I bring the other guys in. And when I'm by myself, I have things happen. You can go to one of the videos I posted. I think it was next to the last or the last video that I posted. So yeah, my last video that I posted, I actually showed some tracks and I explained some things that had been happening that'll be in the next two documentaries. And I also had rocks thrown around me, and it's a common thing. I got a little more hyped up last time because the last time that happened in that video, because the rocks were a little bigger. And yeah, Randy says they're concentrating on their observations from the ridge across from camp and the creek. We're getting them across the creek now. They've kind of changed some of their strategies around camp, and it's been crazy. It's been interesting. Some of you may not know, but I had a previous research area, and I've done all this before, and I've had most of this stuff happen before. My old area was actually a little crazier than this, and it didn't take hardly any time to get the interaction going. And I still don't understand why. I've always just kind of assessed that the things I was doing worked for that particular group. And so in the 400, I started kind of working through the same process, and it seems to be working there. We're also testing it in Chris Reinhardt's area up in Connecticut, which recently got slow, but we're pretty sure he has relocated them. And then we have Randy Harrington, as many of you know, and he's got some big things going aside from the 400, but he's still completely involved in the 400 also. So, we've got a lot going this summer. It's going to be a busy, busy summer, and really my season just kind of started. They are there in the 400 on that property all year round, but things really slow down when the forest thins out. Um, July tends to always be the craziest month. July through October, basically, and then things kind of slow down once the foliage starts going away. Can you say what area in Missouri this is? It's Southwest Missouri. Um, I can tell you that one of the creeks in the area dumps into Table Rock Lake. So that's about all I can say. It's private property, so I can't get too detailed. We chatted 2 Decembers ago when I had my own encounter north of Hot Springs, Arkansas. I remember that. And I believe we did chat a little bit. Always gets busy here in the spring and fall. Yeah, yeah, definitely, Rick. Have you found evidence of what they're eating? Absolutely. So I'll get into that. Um, and I'm done talking off the top of my head. So if you guys will ask me things you're interested in, that'll work much better for me. So, yes, one of the things that we know for sure that they're eating is deer. Um, we have found the carcasses, typically broken neck and broken femurs. Um, there are peach trees on the property. There are tons and tons of different berries that grow on the property. There are pawpaws on the property, which I'm going to get into that shortly. And this is one of the things that tells us that they're storing food. So you'll want to hear this. There's fish. I've got about almost 50 tracks that we've casted at this point out in the 400, and typically we get those tracks when the creek water is dropping at the end, and they are going out and they are getting mussels. They're collecting mussels. The almost 50 tracks that I've gotten are a small number of the tracks that we found. Some of the trackways that we found have had, one of them had 54 tracks in it. Another one had 32. Another one had 24 that went from a gravel area to the water. So I basically, instead of going through, 100 pounds of hydrocal, I've just been casting the best tracks. And just last year, I believe I went through 25 pounds of hydrocal, if that tells you anything. So I think I may have had a small encounter around Shell Knob. I know Shell Knob well, actually. We have family down there, and that is a great area to look. And if I had more time, I would be down there looking, believe that. If you ever find an area down there where you're seeing sign, or if you want to give me the area or the location of where you may have had your encounter, I'd appreciate it, because I actually come through there going to Eureka Springs 3 or 4 times a year. So let's see. What about the possible tub? Yeah, I'll get into that, Randy. That's a good one to bring up. So I want to go to these pawpaws. Yes, this is my first live video, Rick. So I want to get into these pawpaws. I mentioned those. And so pawpaw trees, I knew about pawpaws, and I didn't know that we had any in the region. But just so you know, pawpaw trees always grow near water, typically right off the banks. I started finding scat that had these seeds in them, and I didn't recognize the seeds. So we had to do some research and some studying, and I believe it was Chris that figured out that the seeds that was in the scat was actually pawpaws. So in the second documentary, one of the things that I'm going to be showing is finding these piles of scat. And one of the things I did after the first expedition that I brought the guys into was I changed up one of my hikes, and I did it purposely. I wanted to throw something new and different at them. I have 3 standard hikes that I would typically use out there to make myself predictable. So I changed it up. And the following weekend, I just, I stayed on this new hike. I kept doing it. And I started finding piles of scat on this new hike that I'd set up right in the middle of my trail. And they left one at my bait station on top of a rock and had these seeds. So every one of these piles I was finding had these pawpaw seeds in them. I found these even in front of my vehicle. Typically, when I drive out there by myself, I can only drive about halfway down into the bottoms of the property. Even with my four-wheel drive vehicle, I don't have enough clearance. And I found a fresh pile behind my vehicle. And then it was the very last pile that I found was out in front of my vehicle. And after a day of hiking out there, and the thing about it was this was in December, and in December this scat still had pawpaw seeds in it. Now we've located the pawpaw trees themselves, and if you know pawpaws, by early October they're gone. They've all fallen off the trees. And typically, if an animal is going to dig up seeds, hey Karen in Texas, nice to see you too. Typically, if an animal is going to dig up these seeds, they're probably going to chew them up. And these are whole seeds, as if something was eating the pawpaw, just swallowing it down. There was no reason, no rhyme or reason why I should be finding pawpaw seeds in scat in the middle of December. No reason. I showed some of this scat to Dan Nedrolo, and he can't necessarily, claim this scat to any particular animal. I found some more of this scat recently. Myself and Randy Harrington were out there just a few weeks ago, and pawpaws were growing on the top of the mountains too, huh? They haven't found any more. The patch that we found is actually maybe 500 yards from camp, 600 yards. So could they preserve them in caves? Absolutely, I think so, because we know that there are caves underneath the property. We absolutely know that. We've found many cave openings, but they're all collapsed in. So one of the things that I'm going to kind of focus on this year as far as those caves is trying to see whether or not there is sign of these caves being opened up at times. We haven't seen that yet, but we haven't really kept too much track of that. So who knows? Who knows? That's something we got to look into. But regardless, there is no rhyme or reason to find pawpaw seeds in scat in the middle of December, and I can't explain it, and I don't think anybody else can either, unless you go with the concept that they're somehow storing these pawpaws. So yeah, my best guess would be in a cave, possibly a cave with spring water in it to keep them cold. So who knows? Who knows? So Randy had mentioned the pool. So on this creek, one of the things we found is this rock wall, and you don't really see it during the summer because it's overgrown. And this rock wall has been placed right alongside of the bank, and on the other side of this rock wall is a dugout, a low area that's been dug out, and it's just dirt. And immediately what I recognized was when the water goes up, the fish, catfish in particular, have access to this muddy area, which they do like. And then when the water recedes, there's going to be fish caught in that hole. We haven't really had the opportunity to see how it works because the water hasn't been up that high until recently. When me and Randy were out there a few weeks ago, the water was way up past that. I couldn't even get to it. So one of the things I'm going to be, and last weekend it was the same. So this weekend, tomorrow, I'm going to be running out there in the morning, and one of the things I'm going to check is to see if that hole is exposed now and the water is receded down to it. So did homesteaders build that years ago? Possibly. Did these guys build that? I don't know. I can't say. I have no idea. But it's very interesting that this fish trap has been built here. They're noodlers. Yeah, why wouldn't they be? Absolutely, Mark. Ozark lightning, pawpaws all over my area. We're cool. I didn't know that they grew in this area until as of late. So very, very cool. Let me go through here. Trying to keep up with these comments here. Boogers love them. Pick them all overnight. All right. I bet there are loads of pawpaw trees there. You're just not noticed. Now that you know what they look like, you will see more. The leaves on them. Yeah, for sure, Rick. I do know what they look like now, and I will absolutely keep my eyes open more. Absolutely. I'll be looking for them more so during the bloom season. So there is a place like that, Curious Creek in or Curtis Creek in Missouri, with the wall and the hole. Interesting. I would love to know where that's at so I could go check it out and see how similar it is to the one we found out in the 400. Yeah, it's like an old Indian fish trap. Absolutely, Mark. That's exactly what it's like. Absolutely. So it's been an ongoing thing. Um, these we have different things that are happening. We're getting a lot of audio at this point. Um, I captured some FLIR pictures. I thought I was running video and I wasn't. I was doing picture captures. The very first night from our October expedition last year, we have them coming to camp now. We no longer have to hike our butts up these, these mountains and stuff on the property. We no longer have to hike down, a mile from camp or down the creek. These things are now coming to us. Typically, the last 3 times that we've had our group expeditions out there, we have had them let us know that they know we're there and they're watching us on the very first night. And typically they'll do that and then they're quiet the first night. So that's been kind of a mainstay. We're seeing, let's see, Catch Any Samurai Chatter. Have you heard their speech? I can't say that we've heard the samurai chatter, but myself and Randy on 2 occasions on the same night absolutely heard what sounded like talking. We heard it once with our own ears, and later on that evening, we had the parabolic mic out and we had headphones on in the tent, and we heard it again. We did capture that audio, and if everything works out and we can clean it up enough, that will be part of the end of the second or the early part of the third documentary. Pawpaw should be budding out now. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is the purple flower. Absolutely, absolutely. Very cool. So yeah, that's one of the things that I'm looking for. I want to hear these guys talking or conversing. I've had 3 visuals myself on the property. Um, the talking is one of the things that I absolutely kind of long for. I want to hear that. I want to hear what it sounds like with my own ears. I want to experience that big time. It just hasn't happened, loud and clear yet. So with any luck, at some point that'll happen. Another thing is we have them coming into camp now. Last year, we recorded on 2 different occasions during one 5-day stay or 4-day stay, them coming into camp. And one of the times they were leaving just literally minutes, 4 or 5 minutes before we got back into camp. We heard on the audio the cooler slam shut. And we know also that they were going through some things on Randy's table. On a funny note, we know positively this has happened twice, and Randy's kind of OCD about where he puts everything on his tables and as far as equipment and whatnot. And both times that we know they have went through his stuff on the tables, they've only left one thing out via the sound, and it trying to not say too much, but both times this has happened, they have left one thing wrong. And of course, Randy noticed both of those things both times. One of them was actually a pack of hand wipes, wet wipes, and the wet wipe was actually pulled halfway out, and there was a very dirty smudge on it. And just because of the excitement of the moment, we didn't even think about the DNA, possible DNA and whatnot. And we didn't even keep the wet wipe, but we did film it, so you'll be able to see all that. How big are the tracks you're seeing? Are they juvenile? Yes. We're seeing 2 sets of juvenile tracks, and then what I believe is the mother is a larger set of tracks. And then we also get tracks on a place that I call Crawler Hill and the ridge above camp that are the biggest tracks, and we believe that that is the male. How can you watch the movie in Canada? You should be able to view it on Amazon Prime in Canada, as far as I know. They must have needed it for the corona. Can't find them in the stores now. So the juvie tracks, Jamie, they started out, when I first started finding them, they were 8.5 to 9 inches. I hadn't started casting them yet at that point, and they have grown each year to year. We're seeing the growth. I've been casting, these for the past 2 years now. And last year when I casted them, they were about 10.5 inches at that point, and they're widening out and they're starting to flatten out now. And one of the things that we're trying to show is that we're hoping to show, I should say, is that their feet are more like ours when they're younger, and they kind of transition into the bigger, wider, flat foot. And Jamie Harms, you're finding small ones recently, 5 to 6 inches. I would love to see those if you'd be willing to share a picture of those privately to me. Yes, Rick, you need to do some casting. I saw the track that you posted today in your video, and man, I wish you would have casted that. Sure wish you would have casted that. Awesome, Jamie. You can hit me up on Messenger, or I can get my email address to you, whatever you're comfortable with. You live here, JJ, live in the Ozarks, got a place in a section of the Mark Twain where sightings go back to the 70s. Very cool, very cool. Any info is always good. I just went to a place in Ava. It is a crossing point to get to another area. Yes, I've seen Snow White's tracks. She has some very, very good tracks. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Rick, Hydrocal is what we use. It's very strong, dries within about 45 minutes. Seems to be stronger than plaster of Paris and the other things that people use. Typically, you can get it for about $1 a pound if you buy it in bulk. So $50 for 50 pounds, and maybe it was $2. I don't remember. I'll have to look. But I'm out, so I'm getting ready to order some more. So I'll let you know. Andy, gone fishing. About the Travel Channel show. So I posted this on my Facebook page, but Andy. So the Travel Channel show, me and Chris went and did that. And the recreation that they did of our story there was a lot of falsehoods in it. Everything that within the story happened, but here's what happened in general. We did these interviews, and throughout these interviews, we discussed several different things that had happened at different times throughout the process in the 400. And one of the things I discussed was what happened to me when I was 10 years old. They took all that footage and they kind of created their own damn story. And like there's one point in that show where I say, and then it stepped out from behind the tree. Well, that was when I was 10 years old. That had nothing to do with the other parts of the story. And so they took all that stuff and they mashed it together, created their own story out of all the stuff that we had talked about. So I'll never do that again. I knew that there would probably be, um, Jamie, my messenger is, you can get me on Facebook at Shane Carpenter. My email is hybrid, HYBRID MMA74 @gmail. And no, Mark, we absolutely didn't run. That was one of the things that they said that really pissed me off is, oh, we ran down the mountain scared to death. That hasn't happened, man. It just hasn't happened. We're trying to approach these things. We're not fearful with this group. They've already proven at this point that, like, if they were going to hurt me or hurt one of us, they would already did it. They've had plenty of opportunity. I've been within 7 or 8 foot of one. The next day, we realized that mom was there. She was out behind where the juvenile was. She actually is the one that threw the rock, and we know that because we went out the next day to do a recreation, as we do. And the rock that had been thrown that ended the situation, where it came from in the general area, was we found her tracks. Have you been investigating the same group out in your area for a period of time? Have you noticed them not being around? Sasquatch Omega, absolutely. I've been out there in this spot for 4 years now, and I picked up on a pattern 2 years ago. And this pattern is that they're there for what seems to be about 2 weeks, and then they're gone for a week, and then they're back for 2 weeks, and then they're gone for a week. And I believe that they're going off of his property onto the neighbor's property, and they're doing a big circle. And this is just my thoughts. I have no way of proving this, but I believe that they do a big circle out there, so they're not staying in one particular area all the time. That keeps them from running their food out. It kind of keeps them on the move, so they're less likely to get discovered, I would believe. So yeah, good question, man. Oh man, Jamie, Rick caught you. Don't run. That's stupid. Exactly. Exactly. So I was kind of pissed that they put that. And then also in that Travel Channel show, they had the big boulder rolling down the hill at us, and that's not what happened. The first time I hiked these guys up to Crawler Hill at night, Mark Gardner was in the front leading, and I was in the back, and we had Randy and Chris in the middle. And as we were hiking up this mountain, a rock came flying out of the woods, out of the through the trees, and landed on the trail about 6, 7, 8 foot behind me, and it was about this big. It wasn't a big boulder. So sorry, Jamie, you got busted. All right, let's see. How can you reduce the likelihood of an experience in Missouri or Arkansas? I can't really tell you that. It's I guess just don't pay attention, and if you do, just ignore it. Like, look, if you're going through the area, and this has just been my experience, if you're going through the area and you feel like you're fixing to have an experience, ignore it and just keep moving. Um, and that's the best I can tell you. I haven't. Yes, I know I have another video up. So that I'm new to this live streaming stuff. I set that one up earlier today, and I didn't have a program to stream on that, so I just set this one up quickly. So hopefully nobody's over there pissed off waiting on me. Yeah, I absolutely love the Ozarks, Janelle. It is beautiful here. Very cool, Carol and Bill King. Those are some mountains, no mountains or hills in Louisiana. So one of the things that we talk about here in the Ozarks is a lot of times you don't go up into the mountains. You go down into the mountains here, especially coming from Springfield and going south or going southwest from Springfield. Once you start getting towards Arkansas, you're coming out of what they call the Missouri Plateau. So we're up on this big flat plateau where I'm at, and as you go south or southwest, you kind of go down into the Ozark Mountains. So When of course you go up into the mountains, but from here we go down into the mountainous areas. Signing in from Warsaw, Missouri, Rick and the Sticks. You can't find me, Jamie. Shane Carpenter. Down to the mountains. Absolutely. Fly fishing on the Roaring River. Yes, Lake Taneycomo. Love it down there. Went to SMSU, which is now MSU, man. 88 to 89. Very cool. Very cool. Jamie, I will see if I can find you when we get off here. Yeah, yes, I'm cloaking. Anybody want to discuss that? I'm open to, because I don't necessarily believe the whole quote unquote cloaking ordeal, just because I've seen these things up close on many occasions now at this point. As far as I'm concerned, the cloaking is due to their hair. And I believe Rick has even looked at some hair that he has and seen this particular thing. So their hairs are hollow, no medulla typically, and I believe that the hairs that I have found that were in one of my castings, they had color on the tips, and the rest of the hair was translucent, and so that would allow light refraction. So if one of these guys stepped into a bush, any light that's hitting their hair is going to take on some of the color around them. So basically, they have the ultimate ghillie suit built in, and that's what I've seen and experienced. Anything else? I'm not saying that they don't have any abilities. I just haven't experienced these other abilities that people talk about. All I've experienced is flesh and blood stuff. So, and that's one of the reasons that I really, really dig doing this with Randy Harrington, because he's kind of like me. He's data driven. He wants to have his own data, to come up with his own ideology, and we're open to change. If the data tells us something new, then that's the way we'll go. But at this point in our research, we really have to follow the data. They don't cloak. Believe your eyes cannot register their light spectrum. Possibly. They have a lot of leaf litter in their hair. Sometimes, absolutely, yeah. And that makes them disappear too. B-Man is asking if I've experienced infrasound. So that's an interesting question, and I'll talk about that. My father was infrasound sensitive. Only 2% of the population is infrasound sensitive. The guys that I work with, that I do this with, they know and will attest that there's times when I pick up on these things, these guys being around. I get a feeling, and it's kind of like that feeling of being watched, but it's much stronger. And this goes all the way back to my childhood, when I had the face to face from about 30 foot. I was already stopped dead in my tracks. This thing was hidden behind a tree. I knew it was there. I absolutely knew it was there before it stepped out. And I experienced that to this day, more so when I'm by myself. It happens also if I kind of hang back when we're doing hikes, or I get out ahead of the guys. I tend to feel it more when nobody's right around me, if that makes sense. But is it infrasound that I'm experiencing? I don't know. Is that what I'm picking up on? Am I infrasound sensitive? I don't know. I haven't been tested. Last year, I was going to try to go to Kansas City and get tested, but I never got the opportunity. I worked my arse off last year and was super busy. So let's see. Thoughts on the eyes being lit. Man, so I usually don't talk about this, but I have seen their eyes glowing. Only on one occasion. I had a researcher from Colorado with me, and not only did I see them glowing, but they changed from white to red before they went out, which is a whole nother story. And I don't want to get too much into that at this point, but I have seen it and experienced it once. It's a manipulation of infra, I think, the same way military cloaking tech works, same physics. I don't know about that. I've looked into the cloaking devices that the military is using. It's not so much infrared that they're using. It's a mirroring effect that pulls in all the light and translucence around you and pulls it all to one side so that everything behind you shows up in front of you, basically. From what I've seen, unless you're seeing some stuff that I haven't seen. Any mind speak? Absolutely not. I would love to. Um, and I would never say that it doesn't happen. I just haven't experienced it. And I have tried. I have meditated out in my old research area. I go by myself. I, I'm not ashamed to say that I will speak out loud to them. I will think, questions and ask them if they can do it to do it. And I haven't experienced it. So I can't say. I don't know. Do I ever talk to them? I absolutely do. When I see them, I verbalize that I see them. I wave at them. I let them know that I see them. They absolutely know that I know they're there. No doubt about it. And they absolutely know that the other guys know that they're there. There's no doubt about it at this point. Was there a light source? Um, Other than the moon, no. The moon was out somewhat, but it had been raining. The rain had stopped and it was fairly dark. There was lit, was the sky lit up? Not necessarily because it was cloud covered, but the moon was there, and they were in a densely wooded area. So I can't necessarily say that their eyes were shining or reflecting light. Yeah, Dawn. When I'm by myself, there's nothing distracting me. Yeah, that could be the reason too. The smell. No, I have never ever smelled these guys. I've been around them on many occasions, and I've never smelled them. And that's something that you hear a lot. Oh, I smelled them before I saw them. I've never smelled them. I don't have a great smeller. Uh, my wife does. My wife smells things all the times that I don't smell. She's got like a super sniffer, and I just don't have that. So that could be the reason. I don't know, but I don't smell very well anyway. Cool, Janelle. That feeling of being watched is it. I have one on video right now. It's from the back of your house. Running and cloaking. This is great. Lots of great. Do you ever talk to them? I answered that. Did they have a streak? Skills. What do you mean by that? Do they have a streak coming out of them? Let's see. Wind direction. Yeah, that has a lot to do with it. But I can tell you when I was 7, 8 foot from that juvie last year that I smelt not a thing. Not a thing. Paranormal stuff like orbs that people talk about. Okay, let's get into that. I'm going to say some stuff about the orbs, and people may not like this because they want to include the Sasquatch with the orbs. Is there something that pulls them together? Yes, but I don't necessarily think it's what people are necessarily putting out. So I received some data from a friend who was working with a geologist. And one of the things that this geologist started noticing was he was having um, not necessarily encounters, but he was having experiences such as wood knocks and tree breaks and stuff like that when he would go to areas of high energy. Then that's what he was doing. He was locating these places that were high energy areas due to things like um, it can be a lot of things. There's a lot of places that are high energy due to the geology. Fault line crest points, for instance. And one of the things that happened while working through this guy with this geologist was that we had him send a map of all these places. Yeah, sometimes quartz mark. Definitely, we have a lot of quartz in the 400. So one of the things we had him do was send a map of the county of these high energy areas, and it turned out there was only one high energy area in that county, and it just happened to be right in the 400. So it's the same thing in my old area, high energy area. So I personally think that the orbs that people are seeing are due to these high energy areas. If you really study into geology, there are times when these, different types of rock, such as quartz, will grind and rub, and that will create what people see as orbs at times. And I think that the SAS are for some reason drawn to these areas, that they can sense it, like a lot of animals can sense these things, and and that's why people are seeing orbs in places where they're having Sasquatch encounters. I could be completely wrong; it's just a theory, but I'm going off of data that we have collected. And at some point, we will be measuring the energy levels, a couple different energy levels within the 400. We're just kind of waiting on the opportunity to buy the equipment that we need. And we'll be testing for Infrasound at some point too. We have several tests, quite a few tests that we're going to be running eventually. We just don't have thousands of dollars to buy these, all this equipment that we need to run all these tests. And it's very important, but you know, we just don't have the money to do it. That's kind of why we decided to start putting out these documentaries. Is we are going to be generating a little bit of money from these documentaries, and it's not going into our pockets. It's it's there to buy a thermal camera. It's there to buy a couple pieces of equipment that we need to really get data on the energy levels and infrasound, and we have several theories that we're going to be working through. And I don't care if the theories are proven correct or incorrect. We're just trying to get to the bottom of the data so we know where to look and we know where to quit looking. And it happens differently in different regions. Yes. Power lines, high energy, like Biden rally. Just the opposite. Just the opposite, Rick. Let's see. It seems things happen in different regions. You're killing me, Mike or Rick. Lots of things in the woods, but probably aren't even associated with Sasquatch. Possibly. I haven't experienced that either. So I would love to. If it's there, I would love to experience it. I ain't scared. But what is affecting the energy in areas that also seems to have Squatch? That's what I'm saying. The Squatch are attracted to these areas. There's parts of the 400 that you get in, and you can kind of feel the energy. I have a video called "The Hidden Ponds." You go watch that video. There's one video in particular where I shove a camera up a fissure. If you stand in front of that fissure at high noon, the sun is pointed directly down, due south, down these ponds. And this is where the high energy starts. The high energy area starts. It kind of runs south from there and then cuts back to the west. And the western area is where we basically hang out and camp and do most of our research. Thank you, Jamie. Data is what it's all about. It's very important. And I hate to try field meters. Yes, we'll be working with those, Mark. What gen is your FLIR? You'll have to get with Randy on that. Randy's actually, his FLIR actually came out of a Cadillac. And the great thing about Randy's FLIR is you can move it and it has no lag whatsoever. It runs at like a 640. Chris's, I'm not sure. I'm not the tech guy, man. Chris is the tech guy. So I wish Chris was on here and he could absolutely answer that for you. But ours are older. There's thermals out there now that way surpass ours, and that's one of the things we're going to be spending any money that we recoup out of these documentaries on first. And if we get the one that I'm wanting, we would already have up close and personal headshots of these guys. So we've had opportunity to get great stuff on thermal. We just don't have the equipment to do it, and that's what doing these documentaries is about. We're trying to generate the money to be able to buy the equipment that we need. It's that simple. We're not the guys that are going to set up PayPals and ask people for money and stuff. That's cool. It's just not my style. I always feel bad. I would feel bad if we asked for money and didn't produce something that was worth it. And that's what would happen with my luck. So we're just trying to, be able to get that stuff ourselves. And so we're using the documentaries for that. Crow Creek Cryptids, nice to see you. Nice to see you. All right, let me get to some more of this here. You got to promote more. I didn't know the doc was out. Man, I'm terrible at promoting, and I'm just, we're working on it. We're actually, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but tomorrow we're sitting down with Wes Germer, myself and Randy and Chris, and we're going to do an interview. And as far as this subject, I think that's the best promoting that you can get is when you have a guy like Wes Germer that's willing to put our stuff out there and help us get it out to the masses. Wes has seen it. I have not asked Wes what he thought about it. We're saving that for the interviews, and so that we won't have any idea or expectation of what he's going to say. He may have hated it, and that's cool. We've gotten some bad reviews on it because the camera work isn't the best. Like I said, we don't have the equipment. We do have better cameras now. Chris has purchased several cameras, a few cameras that are very high quality and very expensive. And that was kind of one of the first things that we had to do. So, as far as the shakiness and videos and stuff, that's going to get better as we go due to the equipment. So, let's see. Do I believe them to be a people? Honestly, I do. I think that they are more like us than apes or any other animal. I think they are more like us. I think they're closer to us. I would have considered Neanderthal or Denisovans a people. So why wouldn't I consider these things a people? And what makes me believe that they're people is I think that they have some culture. I believe that they have a type of culture, that they have rules that they follow and they try to abide by. But that's as deep as I'll go on that. The hog hunting thermal scopes are awesome. Yes, Mark, they are very awesome. The ATN Thors, they've got some pretty nice stuff. 50 times zoom. If we had a 50 times zoom thermal, we would have a headshot in the screen this big, and you'd see the hairs on its face. But like I said, we just don't have the money for that. So with any luck, we'll be getting that at some point. So link to the doc would be nice. Well, since I'm computer illiterate, I can't do that right at the moment. Mark Roberts maybe can do that for us. Not sure why my link didn't hyperlink. Auction off some of those foot samples. I've contemplated that. And we've contemplating selling, we have posters of our artwork and t-shirts that we could do and all this stuff. But like there again, I'm that guy. I don't want people to see me as trying to make money off of this. And that happens in this community. As soon as you start looking like you're trying to make money off of this, you start getting haters. You start getting people that are talking shit. You start getting people that are, they're out to make money. They're out to put money in their pockets, So that's been a big ambition of mine is to try not to go that route. And this was the best way we could come up with was the documentary, We may do that. If there's an interest in, shirts or hats, here's a mountain Sasquatch hat right here that Chris had made up. So we do have a website that will be up before too long, and we may do some stuff like that within the website, and that way if people want to help out, they can do it that way. I don't want people donating money for nothing. I feel like if there's going to be any money exchange, that we need to be giving something to them for their money. And that's just the way I roll. It's a tough one for me. It's a very tough one for me. Let's see. Only links I know of to share, Jack links. Who cares what folks thinks? I don't, but the way that we're doing things as far as being data driven and really trying to keep it on the up and up, it's Oh yeah, that's right, Mark. I just read. I got you. Um, I don't care what people think. I could care less, to be honest. But it's just hard for me. It's just hard for me, man. It's just hard for me when it comes to money. Like I'm that guy who I don't even want to ask my mom for money. And I could call my mom right now and say, "Mom, I need $1,000," and she'd give it to me. But I would never do that. I can't do it. I'd rather, I'd rather lose my vehicle than ask somebody for money so I could make my payment or my mortgage or whatever. That's just how I roll. I've got a lot of pride, and sometimes that's bad, sometimes it's good. Where's your documentary on Netflix? It's not on Netflix. It's on Amazon Prime, and I can't talk about Netflix right now. Let's see, Nephilim. Okay, so I'm friends with Scott Carpenter, and I really like Scott and the things he's done. He's one of the first guys I started watching, and he has, he has the theory that these guys are Nephilim. I have no idea. I have no idea. Could they be? They could. They very well could. It's not necessarily what I think. I tend to not worry about what they are because I don't know. Nobody does. So honestly, I don't go deep into that. Um, I have to keep things data driven. So I try my best to allow the data to drive my concepts, and that's what we try to do. You still have to temper what you say and do, just because you will be scrutinized. That is not a bad thing. Yeah, Randy, I know, and we've had these discussions, man. And at some part, I'm just going to say f them all, and we're going to do what we're going to do, and that's the way it is. Once we get the website up and running and public, that's probably going to happen. We'll be selling some stuff on there, and if people want to buy them and help us out, awesome, awesome. If they don't, cool. Don't matter. It doesn't matter either way. It doesn't matter either way. Have I heard the episode from Ozark County? I actually was just told about that, and one of the bad things about me is that I don't listen to a lot of interviews. I don't watch a lot of other people's videos. I have a few people that I enjoy watching, and I watch theirs, like Wood Booger Farm. But I purposely try not to listen to other encounters or other people's videos too much, because I don't want that affecting I don't want what's happening to other people to affect my mindset. Just because sometimes it's lack of proof, and sometimes there is proof, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen to me. And I don't like going into the woods with a preconceived notion. It comes down to the data that I collect and that we collect as a team, and I try very hard to keep it that way. It's tough, but I am going to listen to that interview. Actually, a friend of mine sent it to me just a few days ago, and I am going to watch it. I haven't yet, but I will. The title of the doc is Into the 400. Stay true to yourself. Absolutely, Rick. That's what I'm known for, man. Why people care about a label, but Nephilim is such an odd reach. I know a lot about that topic, and I also know a lot about the Sumerian text. I'm an information junkie, so I have 3 or 4 things that I research constantly. When my family goes to bed at night, I'm up for 3 or 4 more hours studying and researching. I sleep maybe 4 hours a night, typically, sometimes 2 hours a night, and I get up and go to work every day because I'm obsessed with knowledge and research. See, for what it's worth, you seem like honest folk to me. Thank you, Matt. I do my best to be honest at all times, even if it hurts somebody's feelings. I don't like hurting people's feelings. So, if that's the case, sometimes I'll just keep my mouth shut. I need to be a mod to post links. Yeah, I have no mods. It's my first time, and I'll get all this set up so I can do this more. Are there any encounters near Roaring River State Park? Yes, I have heard of a few, actually. I would make you a moderator, but I don't know how. Oh, look there, add moderator. Boom. Mark Roberts is now a moderator. I did it. I did it. All right, Woodburger Farm. Rick is triggered again, damn it. Randy, you have a question here. Why do there have to be more babies? I thought there was a long gap in between. We don't know. We don't know what that gap is. Keep an open mind. We used to drown witches. I got it. I got it, Rick. I made Mark a moderator. So, do I go after dark down there by myself? Any luck with experience? Okay, so in my last video, in my last video, still on track. That was my plan. I haven't done it, and that was my plan for that day. I went late in the afternoon, and I was going to stay till after dark and hang out. And then I got to camp after doing much of my video, and realized I forgot my flashlights, both of them, and didn't care to be down there with no flashlights or anything by myself. If I'm being honest, like I'm not a scaredy cat, but that's like you couldn't walk with those cojones if you understand and have experienced what goes on out on this property. So that is going to happen soon, though. This summer, I am going to camp out there by myself at some point because it just has to happen. I have to have that experience. Growing up and learning. Yes, sir. Pretty soon we will have his own DNA machine. I hope to. If you could send me instructions on how to build that, Rick, I will absolutely do it. Let's see. Deb and Barb, hello. Cold up there. Let's see. Used that example yesterday. What are you talking about there, Skills? So anyway, let's move on. Any other topics anybody's interested in? And anything that I tell you is like literally just from what I've experienced, or it comes from data that we've collected. It's I experimented with music. I'm actually an ex-musician. I have played around with music a little bit, not loud music, but I have toyed with it in my old area. Didn't really seem to do anything for me. Do I think there are subspecies or deformed beings? Okay, that's a good topic. I'm not sure about the whole subspecies thing. If we are to think that there are a people, then they're not all going to look the same. They're going to have different traits that are coming out. Oh yeah, I forgot, Randy. My bad. My bad. We sat on Crawler Hill after collecting some thermal the year before last, and we did blast some Taylor Swift and some Ozzy. You know, we tried to cover both sides to see if either one would be attractive, and didn't really do much for us. So, what was I getting ready to talk about? Let's see, the music. If we're looking for a being that doesn't exist, I know plenty of science must too. Right? Absolutely. Oh, the subspecies. Okay, so let's get back to that. I don't necessarily think that there's different types of these things. I think that they're just different traits coming out, just as in humans. We have different races of humans, and within those races, you have different traits that come out within our DNA. I think it's the same thing. I think that we're reaching too far at this point in time, trying to figure out if there's subspecies or if there's 4 or 5 different types, and there may be. I could be completely wrong, but it seems logical to me that if we're going to think of them as a people, that there's probably multiple races of them, which will make them look different. That's how I see it. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate you renting the documentary. Every little bit helps. I really do appreciate it. getting DNA is only as good as finding researchers to process it. Absolutely, silver stallion. So if you watch the documentary, we had a couple opportunities for DNA. Randy had an ex law enforcement man say that when he saw me blowing on the apple that had been bitten in half, he cringed. And I completely understand that. But at that point in time, we had nowhere to send anything, so it didn't matter. We're not trying to collect DNA. I will say we have DNA kits now at this point, and that we will be collecting DNA in the future if we have the opportunity. Um, do we have somewhere to send it? Maybe, and that's all I can say on that at this point. What if the information from another investigator is sharing was something that could save your butt? That's why I really wish we all collaborated better. Omega, I do collaborate with a few people, and I'm just very picky about who I collaborate with. There's a researcher in Oklahoma now that is having a lot of the same things that we get, and we do collaborate. We talk. Um, the main thing here is, man, I've met so many untrusting people in this whole ordeal, the whole Bigfoot community, that it's so hard to find people that you can completely 100% trust that won't eventually at some point, if they get mad at you or something, they're going to tell everything, you know. I vetted Randy Harrington for a year. I vetted Chris Reinhardt for a year. I vetted Dan Nedrelo for about a year, and I've been wanting to bring him in for a long time. It just wasn't time for him, and now he's a big part of what we're doing in the future. So that's what it's about for me is trust. You know, I don't want to give somebody too much information that could you know, you just have to be careful. You got to be careful. At one point, I had a local investigator who I won't name, BFRO, and this I had three people that I didn't even know message me all within a few days and let me know that this guy had been casing my house on weekends, hoping to follow me out to my research area. You know, so that's the kind of shit that I've dealt with, and so I'm very I'm very picky about who I share a lot of detailed info with. I'm always down for discussing things, and I'm always open about the data that we collect. I'm very picky on who I have a lot of hardcore private discussions with. So, but yes, I wish it was much easier, and I'm always down to talk. My messenger's out there, and anytime anybody wants to chat on some of this stuff, I'm typically down. So we used to believe all kinds of odd stuff as humans. We were basically ignorant and prideful and assume whatever we want in spite of the truth, and that happens a lot within this subject. You know, I try not to discount other people's experiences because it's their experiences. I just believe that sometimes we interpret things incorrectly because of fear. Fear will make us see things in a different light. Like when people have rocks thrown around them, they freak out. Oh, they were throwing rocks on us. They were trying to scare us out. That hasn't been my perspective. My perspective is when they throw the rocks, they are checking you. They're putting you in check, and they are wanting to see your demeanor, because somebody that's going to freak out is going to be unpredictable. Somebody that doesn't freak out and rolls with the moment and stays calm, they're going to be more predictable. And what I think that's what leads to the interaction is being predictable over a period of time with these things. And they get to a point, they understand that you're not going to do anything stupid. You've been predictable all this time. What would change? Right. So instead of getting scared, I hold my ground. I stay calm. I talk calmly. I don't let my adrenaline get going. I'm an ex-fighter, and I've done a lot of crazy stuff in my life. So getting my adrenaline going is not easy. And I have really good control over that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's that's what I think. That's what I think. Do you believe in Dr. Ketchum's DNA? Um, so I'll get to that in a moment because I have a lot to say about that. All of us that go into the woods. This is from Omega. These things are putting our butts on the line big time, and we should take more care. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm just to a point where I'm not scared anymore, man. At first, when I first started this in 2013, um, I was a little scared, but it didn't take me long to get past that because the nature of myself, I'm super inquisitive, you know. I should have been a cat because I feel like I've needed 9 lives at times. Let's see. Finding people you can trust is almost as hard as finding Sasquatch, for sure, for sure. Yes, BFR. Not all BFR are ruthless, but a lot of them are. Want to lay back and listen. Thanks, Shane. Happy Resurrection Day. You too, brother. All right. I appreciate that, D Worm. I really do. That makes me feel good. All right, so let's talk about the Ketchum DNA. So we have some theories that I've actually pulled from that DNA, and if you look into that DNA, I think the DNA analysis. I think what a lot of people had a problem with is when you look at the separate DNA strands, there's other animals that are showing up, which that happens. That happens. So but not to this extent. So that led me to start thinking about the quote unquote abilities um, that people think they have due to their experiences, and some of these abilities can be explained with natural abilities that other singular mammals have. And when I started really thinking about this and looking into this, it really made me wonder, like as far as infrasound. So here's a theory that I've came up with, and I'm not saying this is true, but this is one of the things that I'm looking into as far as infrasound. People say, that they felt this infrasound and whatnot. So here we go. Um, the the bat, the whales, the dolphins, they use infrasound, ultrasound. They project it, and the bounce back shows them, what's out ahead of them, outside of their vision. So if a Sasquatch could do this, that would explain why they always find the trail cameras. Always. So, you know, think about it. These things send a low frequency out through the woods. The bounce back of natural things such as trees and foliage is going to be soft, whereas if that frequency hits something metal or plastic, it's going to give a sudden fast bounce back, and it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. Is it true? I have no idea, but I'm sure going to test it. I'm going to test it. Appreciate it, D-Worm. DNA can be controlled, contaminated, or construed to your controls. I don't know enough about it, but yeah, very possible, very possible. I will say this. I know somebody who sent some hairs that were taken from a box that was hanging 7 foot up, and these hairs never got returned. One, they were sent to a very well-known DNA expert, and he never got his stuff back. And when he finally got an answer, they told him that it was canid. And there's no way that dog hair got in a box that was hanging 7 to 8 foot off the ground. Absolutely, absolutely no way. So there you go. I'm sorry, Vince. I don't. I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can. Maybe I have to set it up to be in Canada too, but I didn't have that option. So I don't know what's going on there. I wish we could do better. At the very least, it's about sharing data and progressing. Yeah, yeah, and honestly, Omega, that's where we're headed. That's why we're putting out these documentaries so people can see how we're getting our data. And once our website's up, all of our data is going to be going on there. So we are going to be sharing our data. We're just going to be sharing it with everybody all at once. So it will be out. I think they see in the infrared spectrum. That's how they see trail cameras. It's possible, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. I could be wrong. I always say that. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I don't have any data that says that. I don't have any data that shows that. And I'm saying this because I have seen I've seen daytime footage. Right off the top of my head, I can't remember whose it was, but There's a plot watcher set up. There's a dried up creek bed out in front of it, probably 50 yards away, and a SAS walks across that creek bed horizontal to the camera. And if you know about those types of cameras, they don't use infrared. They only snap pictures. They snap pictures on a time set. So you can have them snap a picture every 5 seconds, every 10 seconds, and they'll just do that till the battery runs out. And you can set them to do that only during the day. Typically, these types of cameras, these plot watchers, don't have any nighttime stuff built into them. So they're daytime cameras. But anyway, the Sasquatch, 50 yards away, walked across the straight line of sight of this camera, stopped, backed up, and turned and looked right at it. So there was no infrared lights or anything on. This was during the day, and somehow it picked up on the presence of that camera. And these cameras are not very big. They're very small. They're super easy to hide, but it still picked up on its presence. And that's super interesting to me. All right, let's see. How animals perceive and ask versus humans. Totally different. Absolutely. Absolutely. Using pheromones. Possible. Very possible. What instrument do you play? I was a guitar singer. All the music that's in my videos, that's all me singing. And some of it is occasionally me on guitar too. Shut the front door. They kept their samples. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you add deworm, you add eyesight, and if they are using infrasound to see also, it would be pretty amazing. And I have come up with a way to test that. I'm going to say this too. Not only I came up with a way to test it, I came up with a way to record it, and I've came up with. I'm an ex-musician. I've spent a lot of time in the studio. I've spent a lot of time recording on my own. I've spent a lot of time as a sound guy, and if we are able to capture it, but we have to know when it's there, so we know where to look within our audio. But if we can capture it, I will be able to put it within our hearing spectrum, and we will be able to hear what's happening. But I have to know what's happening before I know where to look within the audio when it's captured. So that's the trick. But that, with any luck, that'll be happening. I have to buy the equipment. The equipment isn't cheap, so forgive me. At some time in the future, we'll get to that point. Can't find my channel. YouTube not letting me click info in the chat. Go there. Oh, okay, Jamie, you're not talking to me. Cool. They're OCD. They're going to notice anything new. That's very possible too. Primates in particular think way faster than we do. I think it's 15 or 20 times, maybe 25 times faster than we do. So it's part of their defense mechanism. They're always assessing. They're constantly assessing dangers. So that could be it. That alone, that could be it. That could be the reason they pick up on these. Do I think they understand English language or other? So how long have these things been here? That's the question. If they've been here longer than us, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they have picked up on some of that at this point? Randy has used pheromone baits, had no more success with them than without them. I haven't used them, but there's some things we don't try on the 400 because Randy's already tried them, man. Randy's tried a lot of stuff. Randy's ahead of the curve when it comes to ideas and things that will help us get data. That's why Randy's all up in this. He's a very important part of this ordeal that we have going here. Even tried no glow trail cams. They have new trail cams that have they use a black light instead of infrared light. And I don't know anybody that's used them yet, but as far as researchers, but I would be interested to see if they've had any success with them. I had good luck with rock setups. Have you tried that out there? When you're saying rock setups, I'm not sure what you're talking about, B-Man. Are you talking about just, like rock stacks and stuff like that? Because if you're talking about rock stacks, we have found a few rock stacks. If you want to hear about rocks, so one of the things that we didn't show in the first documentary, which I'll be putting out a video about this at some point, is one of the things we find in the 400 is big flat rocks leaned up against trees. We have one that's about 20 yards from camp, actually. And I find these all over the property. And I found them on this property outside of Ava that I recently went to. And these rocks marked basically a pathway all the way across part of this guy's property. So it's good night, Andy, gone fishing. Good night. So they're using rocks. I believe at one point I was left a quartz rock. And oddly enough, I'm going to say this, and the average person will think I'm freaking crazy, but this this rock was actually left right on my birthday. So, oddly enough, placing them information to see if they get messed with. Yeah, I've tried that, and I've had them mess with marbles. I've had them move things around. I have a bait station, and my bait station is buried. I'm not using it right now because I quit using it to see how it affected, the data collection process. So right now I'm not doing any of that, but I will pick that up this summer. Let's see. Apex people able to process at high rate. They are simply another level. Yes, exactly. I'm looking to move near Ava. Don't tell me this. There are actually quite a few reports. I've been trying to get into private property in Ava for the last few years, and I just haven't been able to do it. And now I've got called into a property, and I'm positive they're there. I found tracks. My first day out there, I was only there for 4 or 5 hours. Found, like I said, sign that if you follow the sign, it takes you all the way across the ridges of his property from one point to another. And I found tracks in the process. So another area that we're going to be we're going to start out leaving some audio out there so I can kind of start hopefully collecting enough data to get an idea when they're coming through, when they're not. And once we get that, then we're going to start doing some research out there. I've got permission to be out there anytime already. So the fellow who owns the property is a super nice guy, great guy. Really enjoyed his company. Can you talk about the tween female dropping down from the tree and looking at you? I can. So this happened July of last year. So I was sitting at camp both times it happened. This was the second and third time. The first, okay, let me rephrase that. So the first day I was ever on the property, I witnessed what I think is this same individual, which I believe is a young female. Last July, I was sitting at camp early in the morning, and I spotted her in this one particular spot. It was just she had her head up, had this. She was in front of the area where I saw her that afternoon, so she was just maybe 5-10 yards out in front of it in this other little patch. That afternoon, or that morning when I saw her, her head was up. As soon as I got maybe 2 or 3 seconds to look at her, and she dropped. I didn't go out there because at this point we were trying to get them and hoping that they would start coming in around camp. So the last thing you want to do is go towards them and push them out. We were trying to get them comfortable coming in closer. So that afternoon, sitting in the same spot, this time actually Chris was sitting right next. He was sitting to my right, and he couldn't see into this area from where he was at. But I looked through this hole, and that looks down into this area, and she had a tree bent over to her right, and she was using this tree to pull herself up over this pile of there's down trees and a lot of weeds growing to it, vines. So she had this tree pulled down, lifting herself up. I could only see her from about here up, and unfortunately the sun was behind her. This was late afternoon, so the sun was starting to go down, and this was to the west, looking to the west. So the sun's behind her. So all I could see was just the blackness. I could see the hair sticking out, and the sun kind of coming through the hair. And she wasn't completely lit up because behind, about 10 yards behind her, was a giant evergreen tree. It was, that's kind of in the way of some of the sunlight. So She was in a dark area, so I didn't get a super good look at as far as facial features and stuff. But I'm pretty positive it was this young female because 3 times now I've seen her. Um, the one that I walked up on, at this point, I don't think that it was the young female. I think it was the young male, just because I did get to see its face 3 times, and I got to see a good portion of its head, and the hair was not as long and sticking out like the one I've seen 3 other times. So I believe that was the young male. Have straight up 7th level intelligence when it comes to their environment. Absolutely, yeah. These guys do know their environment. Absolutely. A few weeks ago, when me and Randy were out, Randy has a new setup for these parabolic microcorders, and basically, what happens is when we put them out, it looks like a log that's about 12 to 14 inches long, about that big around. Literally looks like a log, and it has actual tree bark on it. We set one of these across from camp in the evening, and these 12 minutes into the audio, so long enough for us to get back to camp, basically 12 minutes into the audio, something started messing with it. And this is one of the problems we have. We have certain times during the day where we're positive we can set things out, and they're not watching us. So basically what I'm saying is middle of the day, from about, I can typically count on from about 10 to 10:30 to 3:30 or 4 o'clock. We have this safe zone time where we can set things up, and they're not going to be watching us do this, right? So we go out and set up a recorder at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, so that it will run all night, and they're watching us do this. They're watching us from a distance. They're seeing what we're doing. So tricking these things is almost impossible, but that's also what makes it fun. That's what makes it enjoyable, is like we're playing a game of cat and mouse. We're playing a game of chess. It's just like nine and a half out of 10 times we lose, and that's just the way it is. But that 0.5 gives us data. So that's what we're rolling off of. Every time we go out there, we get 0.5% of data, and at this point we got like 3%. So we're kicking ass. They put up a pic tomorrow. Happy Easter, Crow Creek. Back to you, man. Back at you. Have a good day tomorrow. Yeah, we find blinds. Actually, a few weeks ago when we were out, me and Randy, I did find a set of tracks, and these tracks started down where the creek is flooded up to, and they run down this fence line, step over the fence, go 15 foot out, step back over the fence, and come down the fence line to a blind. And eventually, when the video comes out, I follow these tracks all the way up to this, and I raise the camera up and I zoom right into Randy. It was like the best location to watch camp from, and it's one of the spots that we weren't focused on the night before with the FLIR. So, and these things they're smart. They're a mix of Patty and caveman type in this family, right? I don't know, man. My last research area, there was 5 of them, and all of them had their own look. One of them in particular had no hair on the face, had a hairline like we do. Its ears were bigger. You could actually see its ears. It was thinner. It didn't have broad shoulders. Its hair was thinner. It had a light gray skin. It looked more human. And then the father, the big male, almost looked like a big ass gorilla. The mother looked more like Patty. The young female had a round head with no conical shape to it whatsoever. So that's another one of the things that makes me think that there are different races, and that there's different things that come out within the DNA. I've seen a group of 5 that all look completely different and all have different traits coming out. And once again, I could be completely wrong. Yes, a lot of hard work in the AM, man. Yes, Randy, 3%. We're killing it, man. We're killing it. The last group we researched. Okay, Skills. So if you go back through my YouTube channel, some of the later videos you'll see from Area A. That's my old research area, and I stumbled upon a group with my family. I had my family there when I discovered them, and I discovered them by sensing them, uh, like as I talked about. And the next day, I was out there by myself just before dark, and that was what really jump started me into the research side of things. The uh, the reason I'm not doing a lot in that research area is because I made the mistake of chasing one of the juvies one day, and after that, all the interaction stopped. So I made that mistake there, and I'm not making that mistake in the 400. I've taken my time. Um, that was like a year and a half in when that happened at my old research area, and I'm going on my fourth year now at this point, and I've been able to approach a juvie with no repercussions. As a matter of fact, they followed us back to camp and threw 2 rocks and hit the Polaris after we got back to camp. So they let us know they followed us back, and all was good. Keeps your gears spinning. It is super rewarding, and it's absolutely intriguing. It's I'm obsessed with this. And it's not like we go out every single time and we get evidence. Typically, when I bring the guys in, everything is off the charts. When I'm out there by myself, it's subtle things like I have a particular whistle that I do, and all the guys have heard it at this point. They go out with me, and when I'm by myself, there's particular places I won't even whistle. They'll do it to me. It's like they're letting me know that they're there, and I haven't had that up close and personal interaction by myself yet, and that's one of the reasons I'm going to stay out there by myself this year. It's because I expect that to happen at some point, and I'm ready and willing for it. I have been for a long time. Um, when it's all said and done, did I die? That'll be my question. If I didn't die, it's all good. I'm good with it. um, I'll say this too, man. Like Randy's approaching with me at this point. When we have all 4 guys there, it'll be me and Randy approaching together with a thermal, him with the thermal, me with the camera, the other guys with the thermal and the camera, hopefully within 100 feet. And we're bound and determined to get some up close and personal footage. If I have it my way in the near future, I'm going to be giving these guys, I'm not going to say what kind of food, Snickers, but I'll be giving them, some kind of food. They'll be taking miniature pieces of food, Snickers, from me. So we'll see how that goes. Does it seem you have more encounters when you're not running video equipment? That's the way it used to happen, but not so much anymore. Yes, you guys can read what Randy's posting here, and I agree with that. Do you think they bury their dead? Good question. Good question. So if we're looking at them as a people, I would suspect that. I don't know where to look, and I don't know if I would want to dig one up, but I would, if I was to come across a body, it'd be hard. I'd be hard fought to desecrate it, but for the sake of what we're doing, I would probably take a little something something if I could. You said they have your whistle memorized. Have they ever called you by name from hearing other people say it many times? My old research area, I did have my name, what sounded like my name, said on several occasions. In the 400, that has not happened. And back to whether I think they bury their dead. I've looked into different. I've looked into different Native American stories about them burying their dead, and is it true? Is it not? I don't know. We would have to find one to prove that, and we're not going out digging around. I will say that there are a couple spots in the 400 where there are large body-sized piles of rocks. Are your new and old areas both in the 400? No, my old area is about an hour drive from the 400. You said they have a whistle. Okay. Randy, they're asking about your idea on the procreation. And Chris also has some ideas on the procreation, and I do too. And we kind of mesh. They kind of all mesh together in a way. People see them in graveyards. Maybe they bury around graveyards. I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, my old research area was way more intense than what we're dealing with now. But I can tell you that I got close to all five of the individuals at different times, and had the male follow me and sat about 20 yards from me for about 20 to 30 minutes one day. We made eye contact over and over and over and over. Um, so I wish I wouldn't have made the mistake of giving chase when I did, because that would probably still be happening. And I will say on another note that with the help of a friend that lives near there, I believe may have located that group again. So they're still in the area. They're just not where they were originally. Yeah, Randy's got some crazy stories, man. I'd really like to get Randy on here one day to do some Q&A with you guys, because he has some great stories. I mean, great stories. He's had encounters like I have, and it's terrible, man. We have these crazy encounters, and I was quiet about mine for a long time because people think you're damn lunatic, that you're crazy. And at this point, I don't care. I don't care. Somebody brings it up and asks me, I'm going to tell them the truth. And I'm like that anyway. Somebody asks me a question, be prepared, because I'm going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. If you don't want to know my truth, don't ask me. And I've had people get kind of testy, not testy with me, but you always get that sarcasm, and I had one guy say to me one day, well, if these things were real, there would be one stuffed at Bass Pro by now, or there would be one hanging on a wall somewhere. And I just kind of laughed at him. I was like, you have no clue what you're talking about. And he's like, of course I don't, because these things aren't real. And then I laughed at him again, and he said, I'm sure you get this often. Like, you know, what do you think when people say things like this to you? And I said, I laugh at them, because they're the ones that are stupid, because I know these things are real. They're the sheeple, not me. They're the ones that believe what they've been told, and that these things are a mythological creature. And I'm here to tell you there's a lot of things in this world that are going on that people are blind to. Look at my Facebook page. Uh, we have been lied to about many things for centuries, and it'll all be coming out at some point. Skills, credibility is everything, man. And we try really hard. It's really important to our whole team that our credibility is number one. Because if you don't have credibility, then your data means nothing, So the difference in the activity was their personalities. Yeah, I think there is a difference, I think, in their personalities, and I think that has a lot to do with it. Ken Miller, are you talking about Northwest Arkansas by NAWAC? If so, yes, very very close to the border of Arkansas. Difference in activity, personalities. Let's see. I will tell the truth if someone asks me, but I'm not offering. Right, Jamie? That's kind of where I'm at, to an extent. Sometimes I get to talking about it with one person. If somebody's overhearing, I don't care. That's cool. I'm cool with people hearing. Like I said, if they start asking questions, they're going to get my truth. And if they don't like it, they can just quit asking questions. I just don't give a shit anymore. Yeah. So what Randy's talking about is, right now in the 400, we know that there's two sets of juvenile tracks. One started out at about 9.5 inches, and the other started out about 8 to 8.5 inches when we first started finding them consistently. So we have two juvies that are not too far apart, and there's only one option, or there's two options. They're twins, and not maternal twins, so they're maybe different sizes. They don't look exactly the same, or they've been born back to back a year apart. So to think that they have a set schedule when they procreate. We don't think along those lines because that's not what our data is telling us. Even down to the infant. Yes, Randy. That pride and lots of sheeple, pride, arrogance, and ignorance. Yes, sir. Absolutely. We all have that in us, but you know, it's who can control it, who can't. We have our ego and we have our id, and there's a fine line, you know, between those two. I try really hard to walk that line and not step foot on either side. It's tough, you know. Our human instinct, you know, allows us to do either, and it's makes it tough at times, you know. But I've fortunately I was raised in the martial arts world, so I've kind of got that embedded in me. Wonder if the females mature before the males. That's a good question. You know, we can only relate it to the human species, but I believe nowadays that young girls are maturing faster because of hormones, the hormones in our meat, and you know, we have so many chemicals and crap in our foods. So I think that's affecting humans right now. So I wouldn't really be able to say as far as the SAS species go. We don't all look alike, so why would they? Exactly, Don. Exactly. Yeah, and the juvies are the only ones that have been seen at this point in the 400. We know the other two are there due to the tracks. We just none of us have laid eyes on them yet. With any luck, that'll happen this year. I'm hoping we have an awesome year this time. Interesting skills. Mom might be carrying a smaller one, or they could be smaller ones that stay with Pop. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that I never saw him. He was there a long time. Very cool. All right, guys. So I've been on here for an hour and 45 minutes, man. I appreciate you guys coming on. So here we go. So we got 51 people still on here. So I've had a lot of people on my YouTube channel over the past several months, like, when are you going to put out another video? When are you going to put out another video? And I've got lots and lots of stuff, but we're trying to save a lot of this stuff for the documentaries. So with that being said, I've got 3 videos that I'm going to post. I'm going to put one of them up tonight. As soon as I get off here, these videos are already on my YouTube channel. They're set to private right now. Shoot, maybe I'll just let all 3 of them go. I've got 3 videos on there, and these videos are kind of outtakes from the documentaries, the stuff that we didn't put in the documentary. One of them is from a knock. So you're going to get to see the first set of tracks that we found and see us pouring those tracks. And you're going to get to hear this knock that we did not include in the documentary, because we had better evidence to show, and sometimes knocks don't mean anything to people, so we didn't include it. I have a video of more footage from when we went back and did the recreation of the third video. So not only are you going to see the more of what we did as far as the recreation, some of that didn't get into the documentary, but you're also going to see the entirety, almost the entirety of the FLIR footage. And then I've got another one at the end of the documentary. The editing wasn't exactly what we wanted, and we were in my old area A, and the female yells, and I know it was the female because I've been out there and heard it many times. But I'm gonna put this video out, and it's a short clip of that, and you're actually gonna be able to pinpoint and hear this female yelling as I'm going up to my old bait station. And at that bait station, if you haven't seen the documentary, it had been hit. So when we get off here, I'm going to make all 3 of those videos public. They will be on my YouTube channel. So if you want to check them out, cool. Leave a comment in there. Let me know that you were here on this live feed and you went and watched them. I'd appreciate it. What do I think the knocks are? They're tree knocks. Randy basically has proved this to me. Randy has audio of many knocks throughout a night, and one in particular, you hear the knock, and then you hear what sounds exactly like what you would hear, like a bat, a wooden bat hitting concrete or rocks and bouncing around. But it's absolutely wood. So I used to think that maybe they cupped their hands and clapped, and that was the knock, and open hands was the what we call the rock clacks. I don't think that anymore. Randy's definitely proven to me, and that the wood knocks are wood on wood, and we have evidence of rock on rock clacking. And another thing I'll mention real quick before I get off here, we also are going to be showing evidence that they do throw rocks, and that will be coming out in part 2. Me and Randy stayed on a place we call Crawler Hill one night, and they threw rocks into camp all night the first night. So the next morning, I gathered up a bunch of rocks and marked them. And the reason I did this is because I went out and tracked where they came in above us the night before and thrown the rocks from. So we set them up. We put rocks up there with marks on them. So the next morning we found that. We found one in particular that had hit the Polaris and had the mark on it. So we have proven, we've got some proof and some data that they absolutely are throwing rocks. So let's see. Post your clip, Sean. I'm not sure what clip you're talking about. Message me and we'll discuss that. Wood knocks with a club for sure. Thank you, Barb. Boots on the ground, Barb. I appreciate it. Appreciate it a lot. All right, guys. I appreciate you being on here. I'm gonna try to start doing this once a week, just to kind of keep people up to date with what's going on and what's happening and whatnot. And we'll go from there. The howls. The howls. Oh yeah. If you're cool with me posting that, Sean, I absolutely will. Absolutely. And Sean has another place that I'm going to be checking out before too long, if everything works out. So I'm excited to get up to where he's at. He sent me a video that is super intriguing. It's legit, and I'm going to be making my way up there as soon as I get the opportunity to do it. So I appreciate you chiming in, Sean, and we're going to get that done. We're going to get that done soon. So seems like the young ones like throwing rocks. Absolutely, Barb. They do. And they don't care about the glass house. Right, D-Worm. Why don't we go out on why don't we go out one more time before I head out? Let's do it, Randy. Holler at me. Well, we'll be talking tomorrow before we go on with Wes. So good deal. All right, guys. I'm jumping out of here. Hope you guys have a happy Easter tomorrow. And besides that, over and out. OMS.